Hello everyone and welcome back, or if this is your first time here, welcome aboard. I am going to be demonstrating some measuring techniques today, and hopefully those will be of some use to you. Anyone that's seen a lot of my videos will know that this is not a normal setup for me with the grey background, and instead of a paint tool I have a thin line brush. This isn't the usual way, but it seems like a good way to demonstrate measuring and proportional techniques. I've got a bunch of tools with me here, but let's go through some methods that you can use to transfer the proportions and shapes from one image to another. The classic one is, the holding the pencil at arm's length sort of thing. You can do the same with the stylus, and if you have your tablet set up in a similar manner to a canvas, then you can still do that. You measure off in the distance, and then you come and proportionally measure it out on here. Obviously, I can't put my hand through the canvas here, so when I'm transferring from a photograph, I can't do that, so that's not something I generally do. It is an option if you're more used to traditional methods. Probably the easiest method if you want something extremely accurate is to use a grid. I don't do that very often, but we can bring one up. And using a grid, this one's a bit dense, but it'll do for now. If you're using Photoshop, the way to do that is to go to Preferences, Guides, Grid and Slices, and then you can set your grid here. I'll set that to 512. I'll set this to 1 and hit OK. Most graphics packages have something similar to this. Make sure, because grids often allow you to snap, you want to turn snap off, otherwise you'll be trying to draw a nice curve and it'll be like this, and following the line like this, and that's not what you want. Okay, so I'm sure most of you are familiar with the grid method, but just in case, you isolate each grid square. So instead of worrying about the whole canvas, you're just worrying about the one square and where things appear on each part of that. So you can see here there's about halfway across this, and this one's a little bit further in, maybe a third of the way across, there, just like that, maybe a bit more. And then you sort of join the dots. So that's one method, not one I use very often, if ever. If you need a really close likeness, then it makes a lot of sense to use the grid, but if you're just after something that looks vaguely similar, it's not really going to do. It's going to slow you down more than anything as you're worried about measuring different things. So I'll turn that off. Another obvious one is to just, trace the thing. I don't recommend that. Oh look, I was off. I don't recommend that unless you need an exact likeness. I know they use it for things like movie posters and things like that, but you don't learn a lot by it. So if you're painting for yourself, you can trace. I'm not going to tell you can't trace. Anybody, it's your art. You do what you want. But personally, I generally don't trace. So other methods. One fairly accurate method is, so now you should be able to see I've got a set of calipers here, and the calipers, you can pick them up on Amazon. I think you just look up artist calipers and there's loads of them available. But they just allow you to quickly measure something. So that spot right there where I mismeasured it earlier because I was eyeballing it, if I do it now, it becomes pretty clear that I did that in the wrong place. So we'll be about there. Okay, and you can measure any. These lock fairly well into position, so you can measure just about any point on the illustration. I use this occasionally when I'm trying to get a reasonable likeness of the subject, like that. Just measure on there. Oh, that was right. Cool. Measure a bit further up here. What does that lie? About there. Okay. So if I'm trying to get a pretty good likeness, I might use this to get some accurate results. And yeah, these ones are proportional, so you can adjust where this lies on here, and then the two ends are proportional to each other. So if you have, like, you're trying to measure from a big image, you can then transfer and use the other end and also scale it accordingly. Another one I have, I just picked this up at like a garage sale, a car boot sale, I guess you'd say, in the UK, and it's similar, but you can lock the position. You know, it doesn't move once you've set this, so that's quite useful if you want to make one measurement, like from the chin to the nose. And then, I don't actually know where the chin is yet because I haven't measured it, but you would do that and you can keep that proportion and go, oh, that's actually pretty similar to the distance from the edge of the hat to the eye. So it's good for measuring against different things. Or you can use the other proportional dividers for that too. The one that you've seen me use several times, especially in the last video and a couple of videos ago, is just eyeballing it, and that, at least when you've got glasses like mine, is a pretty dreadful method. Because my glasses distort my vision quite a bit, so it's difficult to be certain and getting things in the right spot, but you can still do it. And if you're not too worried about an exact duplicate, especially if you're doing something like a cartoon, or, you know, you just eyeball it, and I can already see that that's probably off, but yeah, we'll show you the next technique in a second, and that'll clear that up. So the proportion things I use quite a lot, but the method I use most, because it's fast and it's close enough, is what I call a flick technique. I've never seen anyone else use this, but it works for me. And that is, you place your hand and then you just flick over the source picture, and once you get sort of the right feel for how far that thing is, you do the same thing on the other side. So this chin, for example, is, so I know where that cheek is, it's about there, and then from there I can flick down to where that chin is. There we go, and I get the feel for that, and flick, 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 so the chin is actually about there. And this is not a terribly accurate method, but it is more accurate than just doing it by eye. And actually, now I'm looking at these side by side, I'm looking at this chin, and I'm like, that doesn't look right. Is that chin in the right place? And so it's time to start checking things against other things. So let's check the distance here. So yeah, I guess that's about right. Other things that are useful to do are set like the center line of the face. So where's this nose go? Somewhere around there. And then we know the edge of the center of the chin is about there. And so if I draw a line like that, that's probably pretty close. And then I know that, like, the nose lies on this, the bridge of the nose is there, the arc of the mouth falls on this. So I'm going to go through and quickly lay this out while we go into Benny Hill fast forward mode, and I'll join you on the other side. So another useful thing that you can do to make life easier for you, again, I very rarely do this, I forget to do these things, is to use a ruler. And in Photoshop, you can just do that, and it'll give you a pretty clear line across some things. If you're having difficulty like getting angles, just do the ruler, and then that helps to like compare that angle against where you're going. So, I didn't actually mean to do that. Don't really need the ruler up. Get rid of that. How do I get rid of that? Go away, ruler. Is that a backspace thing? No! That's the wrong thing. Is it just clicking off the ruler? No, now I'm stuck with the ruler for the rest of my life. Oh no. Clear it up there. You may note that the ruler is not gone. I think that's just because I need to zoom in out to refresh it. There we are. Alright, flip the screen. You can also get something like this, which is a protractor. This particular one, you can loosen it up and then you can measure an angle against something. Not something I use very often. I usually use my eyes. They're not the best judge, thanks to my glasses, but they're usually close enough if I'm doing comparative stuff. Oh, and the proportional divider thing. For years I used this setup, which is just some Lego pieces, and I had a couple of other Lego pieces at the bottom. I don't know if you can see that. A couple of other Lego pieces at the bottom that were set to come to a point, and I just measured against that. Now what I did just then was to check the height of this and then kind of draw a circle. You can kind of see there's a curve on the top, there's kind of a curve around here, so you can just kind of squiggle a circle, and it's the same thing. You get the muscle memory of the circle and then you can transfer it. Okay, so I think that shows, just using that flick technique, how you can get a reasonably close image. If you wanted something that was, a lot closer, this is just for a quick paint. I mean, I spent half an hour on this with explaining and actually doing it, which is far longer than I would normally spend. But I think this sort of demonstrates the technique, and I can see, even just looking at it now, there are some things that are off that I could choose to fix, or I could be like, it's not really going to affect this, what I'm trying to get out of this illustration. Yeah, his neck's way too thick. But it does get the idea across. So I will probably do a quick follow-up and just get this painted up. Wow, this is way off. But for the sake of this demonstration, thank you for joining me. And I hope you'll come watch other videos in the future. And this is me signing off.